Yeah. So, Robert, I actually have, let's see, well, I have some new LEDs that I just got in the other day. I'm not like super stoked about them, but mainly because, oh, still no video on Twitch, huh? Oh, it threw another warning. Oh my goodness. Like I didn't, hang on just a second. All right, cool. Yeah, it's still throwing a warning for me. Anyway, all right. So we'll just do YouTube tonight. Yeah. So I don't know where my camera went. And I wanted a live view. There we go. Cool. So I got in these. These are RGB addressable. And I haven't even hooked them up yet, so I didn't have a chance to go check out all of Quinn's website. He has a ton of good info, just in general, about a lot of different things. Anyway, so yeah, I've got a lot of research to do, and I just didn't understand, right? I thought, oh, I just take out an ESP32 and hook it up and rock and roll. So it was good to hear them explain that. Hey, thanks, HammerCam. Yeah, I dropped the bitrate down, so it probably finally quit complaining. So anyway, but yeah, I thought it was awesome. I think what Dr. Z's is doing, bringing other people onto the stream, has been awesome too. There's a few others I'm looking forward to seeing on there as well. So it's good for the community, and I certainly don't know it all. I'm just trying to share what I know with other people, and if you find it valuable, that's awesome. And a lot of times I'm still learning, along the way. So I spent a lot of time yesterday trying to submit my first PR. For those of you that don't know, that's called a pull request. And, I think it was around October last year, GitHub has a big push to submit PRs. And I think they give out t-shirts and other cool stuff, but I kept hearing like, oh, just go submit a PR for documentation, even like typos or improving documentation. And I think for me, I'm not traditionally a developer, so I have a pretty strong infrastructure, IT infrastructure background, but I just have never written a lot of code. So somebody just says, oh, just go open a PR, do a pull request, like it's no big deal. And there's a little bit of a learning curve. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but yeah. And so Robert, and maybe I missed something, but to me, I still feel like it's a lot of work just to go submit a PR, even for documentation. And I'm sure it would get quicker as time goes on, or better. I would get better at it, but just the whole process of, okay, I have a GitHub account, and then what? And just kind of that, what's the next step? So I watched some good YouTube videos, and I thought through it. I learned a little bit. I've still got a ton to learn, so I didn't totally get rejected by Frank. We chatted a little bit. I realize there's lots of time zones involved here, so he's +7 from me, so it's like midnight for him. So I think, yeah, I hammer Cam. It is terrible for the wallet. Yeah, and see, I didn't even know there was a good post on the forums, so that probably would have helped me out because it was more Home Assistant specific. So, Robert, if you want to post a link to that, that would be awesome. And so to kick things off tonight, I just, so Frank did, as always, banging out the add-ons, it's just one hit after another. It's funny, I'd gone back and I was watching some of the videos from December of him, and that I didn't get to catch around the holiday break, or that I had missed. And part of the reason I was doing that was I was trying to watch him build add-ons. So I saw a video where he was a little he was being pretty passionate, which he's a very passionate guy, and so it sounds like he got some inspiration from some people that were maybe not HASS.io fans, and so I think that's really kind of pushed him to create a lot of net new add-ons and really kind of just benefit the community and really show the power that exists there. So anyway, so he spent a lot of time, going through creating the add-on, and I think somebody even asked him in the channel, like, "Hey, go into Grafana," and he's like, "Why? Like, the data's in influx. Like, why do I care?" So, he had this. Sorry, I just grabbed the wrong port there. He had this, the influx DB, the chronograph view up, which is here, and you can go into and explore data. And so here's, the glances information, and like you can see, okay, well, what's the, CPU, let's see, I was looking for that earlier. IO weight, careful, critical, somewhere there should be a total. And it doesn't even have the right view here. It's in a table view because I was trying to find some other information. But my point is, this is good if you're just trying to explore the database, but Grafana really adds a lot more visualizations, and you can actually create dashboards, right here from within Chronograph as well. So totally possible to do that. I haven't personally spent a lot of time in there, but what I did do, and the reason I opened my first PR was. Yeah. So the reason that I submitted a PR was because, like, getting the data in the database is one thing, but I'm not the most talented at doing layouts and graphical designs and things of that nature. It's just I've never been a graphics artist. Maybe made some attempts at some time or another, but it's just not I'm just not really good at it. So I struggle with it, and it's just like anything. I'm sure it just takes practice. But anyway, so for me, getting the data in to Influx from glances is like, okay, Frank made that super easy. Now, like, how do I turn that data into something that's consumable and digestible? And what, what's really the value, right? Like, why would you go install glances? Well, so there's a couple things. I kind of been thinking about this over the weekend and, today. And I think for those of you that are on Raspberry Pi, you have limited system resources, which, by the way, somebody brought this up on Frank's stream. I don't remember who it is, but if you're here and you pipe up, I'll certainly give you the credit, because very, very valid point. InfluxDB is a time series database, and so it is a database, right? And as well as, Home Assistant has a default database built in to track states and do all that stuff as well. So just something to keep in mind is that if you're running Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi, awesome, nothing wrong with that. I just, word of caution, SD cards have a limited number of write cycles, and I think as we start to see the number of add-ons and popularity, of add-ons increases, and we start to do more and more, and we expect more out of Home Assistant, that just means you're putting more demand on those components, and not just the SD card, but CPU and memory and all that stuff. And I'm not saying you got to run out and buy some big honking server to run Home Assistant. That's not necessary either. But I think there needs to be a certain level of awareness that, look, like, you're writing a lot of data to an SD card that was really meant to store pictures, where, you might take a few thousand pictures, even in a day. That's nothing compared to the amount of data that we tend to generate as you start to add more devices and more things are, getting logged. So just, and I was trying to put something together with the Glances dashboard to actually show that. And I'm still learning. So, maybe somebody gets this set up and they want to share the panel with me on how they did the calculations. And I'll show you what I was doing to basically try to show you like how much data has been written to your SD card. And over, even if it's just over a 24-hour period, if you can start to get an idea of what that average looks like, you should be able to get a really good idea of like, okay, how much time do I have before I need to worry about this SD card going bad, right? So just something to keep in mind. So with that being said, let me show you and so by the way, this instance of InfluxDB is running in a VM. I'm not running this in Home Assistant, but it works the same, right? So I don't, you guys kind of give me some feedback and direction on what you want to hear and what you want me to cover specifically. What I planned on doing was just, for those of you that don't know, there is what's called an Edge repository. So if you're familiar in Home Assistant, you have under, HAS.io, add-on store, you have the official add-ons, and then you have all of the community add-ons, and you can see all these here. These are what I think Frank would be okay with me calling them, generally available. They've been tested, and bugs have been worked out. And Donna, we can totally talk about VMs at some point. Let me get through the Grafana stuff and try to avoid the squirrels, and we'll definitely happy to talk about that. And I'll show you my configs, and we can talk about VMware and all that great stuff too. I'm happy to. This is for you guys, so let me know what you want, and we'll talk about it. So with that being said, these are kind of GA. Not saying that there's no risk that they won't break something still, but they've been tested a little more, they've been out longer. So with that being said, like, okay, well, how do I get Edge? Well, so you go to the GitHub HAS.io add-on Edge repository, you find this green button, click copy, go back to Home Assistant, you paste this in, and you click add. And if all goes well, it shows up as Edge, and down here at the bottom, we now have all of these Edge add-ons, so just keep in mind that there's some risk here. If you log into the community, add-ons page and expect to get support on an Edge add-on, and it's going to be best effort. It's already best effort, but I think Frank does not only an awesome job of supporting the add-ons, but also ensuring that what he creates is easily supportable. So I think that's awesome. Anyway, from here, you can install Glances. So you would click on Glances, and you would click the install button. And then before you start it, you need to make sure that, because it's getting direct access to the host system, you need to turn off the security mode, whatever this is called right here, the app armor stuff. So there'll be a little flag, and I'll show you. And by the way, the reason I'm not clicking install here on this, well, actually, that's fine. It doesn't matter on this, because this is my dev environment anyway. So I'll just click it. But I was working on the PR yesterday, and this might totally screw some stuff up, but for whatever, it doesn't matter. It's dev, I can blow it away. So this is the protection mode. So you would turn that off, and then you would go down here and you would change your config. And so the key things here are, first, I typically disable SSL for the add-ons. This actually bit me while I was doing testing of the PR. So I was building a new instance with some changes, and I'm going to talk about why I was adding those changes in a minute. But you got to change this to true. The rest of this you pretty much leave the same. This is the username and password for the InfluxDB, and I can show you where you go create that. I may reveal a password here, so no, I don't. That'll be fine. Users, you would create a new user here and a password. The key thing is, by default, when you create a new user and you give it a password in Influx, it doesn't have any permissions. So that bit me. It's bit me a couple times just because I'm in a rush. And so I'll go create a new user and I forget to give it permissions to actually write to the database. And if you do that, then Glances can't actually send any of this data to InfluxDB. So just make sure that username and password matches the database. Again, within Chronograph, you would go over here to databases and you would create a new database, click this button, give it a name. It's pretty straightforward. Like that stuff's all pretty easy. So if you did all that, now you have data in InfluxDB. And so the next thing that I did after I got this set up, because I was like, oh, cool, I can see the data from my Docker containers and what the local system's doing and all that good stuff. And that's all awesome. But remember, I'm not the best at like creating pretty things. So what I usually do is I head over to the Grafana dashboard site, and there's probably a quick link from over there, but we'll just go here to the grafana.com. And if you go to dashboards, like there are thousands of dashboards that have already been created. So a couple things to note here, like even if you don't like the way they look, somebody's already gone through the work of like, creating at least, some panels that you can use, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I just did a search for Glances, and there was what appears to be a somewhat official release of a dashboard, and you can click on it and kind of see a picture of what it looks like. And again, even if you don't like this layout, Grafana makes it very easy to copy and paste these panels. So if you want to create your own dashboard and you just want to show the load of the system, of your Home Assistant system, for 1, 5, and 15 minutes, then you can just, and I'll show you guys how to do that. You can just go into Grafana, you add this dashboard, and you can copy and paste these panels, create your own dashboard, which I'll show you next, like what that looks like. So to install a dashboard, you can click copy the ID right here, or you can highlight it, or you can just say, oh, it's 2387, and then you go back to your Grafana instance. And when you go to create a new dashboard, when you click the plus here on the left, and I probably need to pause because I kind of jumped ahead. I need to probably rewind myself a little bit. This is where you would import the dashboard. So let me just finish this, and then it won't work if you just do an import and you haven't set up the data source though. So anyways, you would go import, and you just paste that ID right here, or type it in, whatever, and you click load, and it installs the dashboard. So like that's pretty awesome. Like I didn't have to do a whole lot, right? Like I got Frank's add-on, it's collecting all the data, it's sending it to Influx, and I just go to Grafana, I find a dashboard I like, and hey, everything works. Well, one more thing you need to do, and that is you need to add a data source. So Glances is collecting the data, sending it to Influx, and then we need to tell Grafana, hey, this database in Influx is where I want you to get data for a dashboard. And if I would have clicked import and actually gone through the process, and I'll show you that, it actually tells you that essentially. So to do that, you just add a new data source, InfluxDB. The URL should be localhost, and the database name would go right here. So whatever you called it back in the Chronograph side is what you would put in here. So if I was adding Glances and I created a database called Glances, I would put it in here. This is the username and password that we created again in Chronograph. If I go back to users, so username and password, put that in, and then it adds it as a data source. And then so by the way, when you click save and test, it actually makes a call using the username and password and tries to actually connect to that database to make sure that it's still it's available and it's working. So that's all good. If you get you'll get a little green pop up down here saying that it was successful, and then you can go and import the dashboard. So you probably need to actually go create the data source first, and then go back and add the dashboard. So let me go back here. So like here's a dashboard that I've just been working on for me, and I've like pulled basically I've pulled and copied these or created them myself in some cases. And it should be refreshing, but doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like my WAN speed is proper, but maybe it is. Oh yeah, that's saying 50 megs. So you can see in real time, like this is kind of cool. Like all these charts, you can just zoom in on them. And we didn't talk about the interval at which it's collecting data, but that was a tunable parameter, by the way, in HAS.io, or sorry, in the add-on config. It's down here at the bottom. So this interval is how often it's going to take data from the Glances add-on and push it into the database. So by the way, if you ramp that number like to 10 seconds, because you don't want to wait a minute to start seeing data, that's all fine and dandy, but just know that every 10 seconds, it's writing all those metrics to the database. So for those of you on an SD card, you probably want to keep this in mind, and maybe even if you don't need like real-time data, you might want to, decrease this to, 300 seconds or, something even less. All right. So there's lots of dashboards on the site. Matter of fact, I'm going to go back and do another search, because I saw this dashboard. If I can find it. Oh yeah, this one right here. Whoop. I saw this one actually. I think I saw this on like Facebook. This guy's dashboard, and you can't. I don't know if I can zoom in. He has a picture. I guess this is his theater room, and I know that probably looks like trash right there, but he's like got some massive monitor that's mounted vertical, and he's got this big dashboard up there. It looks like it's in his theater room. And so again, you can click on it and kind of get an idea of all the great stuff that he is collecting. And I didn't download this dashboard, but I figured out how they were doing like the weather plugin. This is just an iframe with dark sky and one of the dark sky widgets. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And I totally stole his gateway up and down, router up and down, and then he's got his bandwidth, and he's got packet loss, which I haven't really dug into yet. I'm sure I have lots of that too. And then I think, since this was kind of home theater specific, he's got, and you can probably see that a little bit better now. He's got some really cool stuff on his NAS, just like how much storage all his different things are taking up. But the other thing too is he's got some sensors built in. So like, again, it's kind of the nice thing about Home Assistant in general is that there's just so many options, like on how you want to, interface with the system and how you want to represent data. And, there's tons of dashboard options. And I'm not suggesting that you go build your entire Home Assistant dashboard in Grafana. Can it be done? Absolutely. Doesn't mean you should do it. So I think it's awesome, but this is kind of like a lot of times I think with Lovelace, especially like, we're trying to insert iframes into Lovelace as well. And that can be done here too. And I'll probably do like a separate video on that, because to be honest, I haven't spent enough time to figure it all out and get it to look right. So I need to work on that. But in this case, I know, because I read if you go back and read his notes, by the way, this is called Stats at a Glance for Home Infrastructure. So you could probably search on any of those keywords and find it. I mean, he's only got 119 downloads, maybe because it's a little specific, but he's using action tiles in an iframe. I don't know a whole lot about action tiles. I went and looked at it. I think they may charge for what they do or something, but my point is that there's all kinds of ways to get the sensor data. He's using an iframe. By the way, the other thing you could do, and again, I just haven't had a chance to dig in, is you can create a single stat like this. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah. Sai, that is exactly the one I was talking about. Thanks for sharing the link. Anyway, he got lots of, I think, well, I say lots. There was a lot of people that were like, oh, that looks really good. So, but just know that, like, so if I want to go take his dashboard, granted, I don't know what kind of NAS he's using. I don't think it really said. So, I didn't see anything in here that really gave away. Like, the other thing he had that I thought was kind of cool was he's getting, looks like some statistics from Pi-hole, like on how many ads were blocked and all that good stuff. So anyway, lots of good stuff. And you don't have to go recreate all this stuff. Like a lot of this stuff, that's, there's a good chance somebody's already done this. In this case, this was another plugin, and it looks like it's giving me fits, or it just shows the lake level where I'm at. So lots of good stuff there. This was me playing around with trying to figure out how many bytes have been written to an SD card. I don't have a Raspberry Pi set up, so I don't know if this works on a Raspberry Pi. But let me drop this in. So somebody said, when I was doing some research just on SD cards and trying to figure out how much data has been written, somebody said you can go run this dump to FS command with a -H, which usually the -H stands for human readable. Might be a little difficult if you're just running HASS.io on a Raspberry Pi, because I'm not sure how much of a full-blown shell and other components are there, and my guess is that this utility is not installed in HASS.io. So if you try to go log into HASS.io and this command doesn't work, sorry, maybe you can add it to the container. I'll be honest, I don't spend a lot of time like in HASS.io in the shell, but I will show you real quickly what that command looks like when I run it on this is HASS.io running on top of Ubuntu, so this isn't really even in a VM per se. It's just I installed Ubuntu on this system, which is an Intel NUC, and then installed HASS.io on top of that. So let me just actually I don't know why this thing does this. Oh, and you've got to give it the disk. So, hey, Firespire, how you doing? If we scroll back up here, this is my disk. So if I do this again, there we go. You get the right command to run, and hopefully you guys can see this okay. Here's kind of it's right around here somewhere. Oh yeah. So this is showing me lifetime writes, and I'm guessing, since this was coming from, in this case, Ubuntu, that it's the writes since I've had Ubuntu installed on this system. I've actually had some other things installed on it before, so I don't know. I didn't do a lot of research on the command. I was just using this as a reference point, trying to figure out, okay, it shows I've written 347 gig, and then I did some crazy stuff like, I think I went and wrote a file. Yeah, I was doing this. I was just writing to this file a bunch of zeros, and let's see. Oh, that was not the one that I wanted. We want to do bang. What was it, 461? There we go. So it just wrote 1 gig real quick. I know it's late, Adana. Sorry, man. I tried to push it forward. I appreciate you hanging in there, though. So I just wrote a gig to the file, and now if we run this command again, it should have incremented, and it didn't. So I don't know what this counter is based on, because that file's technically full of zeros. Why it didn't increment, you know, I just wrote a gig and it's still showing me the same thing. So I don't know, but just know that if you're on an SD card, you should probably pay attention to that. So let's see, we got about 20 minutes left ish. I mean, I set an hour aside. If we go a little bit longer, that's fine. But I wanted to show you guys importing the dashboard once you get the data source added. So let me just show you. We'll just add that new one that I just was looking at. Let me see if I lost that. Let's go back over here. It is 8702. So I'll just type it in. And okay. So this is what happens when you key in that number. It tells you who it was written by, when it was last updated. Pretty current, October, so that's not too far back. You can give it a name. It pulled that in by default. See, it's wanting a data source for all these different things. So it looks like he's gathering some stuff from SNMP via Telegraf, which I wasn't planning on talking about necessarily. So this one may not be as easy to get the data. And he might have some more, like I don't even know what Tatui is. Yeah, so there's not a lot of stuff there. So I can try to, like, I know I don't have Pi-hole installed, but it might, you want 6 hours, Si? Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, good point, Robert. And on the SD card where leveling, I'm curious. Like I've been looking into some other systems, and there's some pretty affordable Intel Atom stuff that will support whatever that. There's a new format which I can't remember now for SD cards. Not a format, but a different type of SD card. I think it was like eMMS or something like that, or eMMC maybe, where I think they're a little bit more resilient to all the writes. So, all right. So, I don't know. Oh yeah, it's not gonna let me import. So I'm gonna have to like pick a data source for this stuff. I don't, we'll see what happens. It's probably gonna puke. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. I'm not sure I understand J After Dark on the, even if running an SSD. As far as trim support, maybe so, yeah. Ah, that's good to know, Robert. Maybe you could like schedule automation. I don't know what that command looks like. I'm surprised somebody hasn't written some kind of add-on to do that. That's certainly worth investigating, especially if you're going to run influx on top of it. So I guess maybe in that case, the dashboard, I don't know. It didn't like the feeds that I was giving it, which is too bad. So I didn't try that one obviously before the stream, but I'll show you some of my other dashboards that I've been working on. So I wasn't super happy with this one either. It didn't have any data on, like, it doesn't have any data points on the actual volumes, like how much storage is in use. So this was a Synology add-on. And so that's when I was just trying to use that to copy and paste. So let me show you like what that looks like, by the way. let me go back here. So like, let's say I wanted to get the load and use this on my home dashboard for my Synology, and I just want this one panel. So you do that by going to, you click the panel editor at the top, and you go down to more, and then you click copy. And then what we do is we go to the dashboard that we want to actually put that on. So I usually go back to manage, and then here's the home dashboard. And then you click on this add panel, and then you click on paste, and then it shows you the panel that I just copied. So here it is. Now, why it's telling me there's no data points possible is probably because it's trying to pull that from this database, and I think that was coming from doesn't look like in this case. The host probably isn't right, so I need to probably set that to, yeah. So this is, there we go. Just save that. Yeah, there we go. Go back. So now I can resize this load. Maybe I don't need it quite that big. I want to make it small. And, you know, since I just put this in here and like we don't have any context around it, I may make a couple other tweaks, and I'll just kind of do that while I'm here. So how do we fix this? Because like right now the legend is all off to the right and it's shown as a table, so that kind of just puts it underneath. And then we want to go edit the general so we know what the load is. NAS load, yeah, that's close enough. Boom, save it. Done. So now we can see the NAS load. Maybe I want to make that a little bit bigger. Oh, one other thing that I was just kind of playing around with. Yeah, I'm a pretty big Synology fan, but this one's actually running. It's not running Synology. I have one. Well, I had two Synologies. I actually just sent one as part of a care package to somebody. It was an older DS14J, so it's just a. I say just. It was a 4-bay, and it doesn't have a lot of processing power, but it's perfect for, you know, storing pictures and backups and stuff like that. So, but I have a DS1512, which is a 5-bay, and then this other one is actually running Exponology. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on that, but anyway, it's running. This one's actually in my VM, so. And my lake level sensor came back. But one other thing I was going to show you guys here, it looks like this one is it's kind of got a shadow on it. So let me go back and edit. I just felt this today. There's this transparent option here, so that makes it transparent for what it's worth. Yes, Exponology. Yes. So I'm actually running that on. And you'll see that. I'll show you that dashboard while I'm at it, actually. So I don't know what happens here. Sometimes this thing just kind of wigs out. Let's go back to. Here we go. No, I didn't save those changes. So here's this is my vSphere dashboard as well. So lots of goodness there. And I didn't build any of this. This is another dashboard that was on the Grafana website. But I'm realizing now that I didn't tell you guys why I created a PR for the glances. And I probably should do that. And Frank and I were talking about it a little bit earlier about what's the best method for the PR that I put in. Let me just kind of walk you through that. So right now I'm actually using a local add-on where it basically has the changes that I made to Frank's Glances add-on. You could obviously, if you really wanted to make Glances work with the default dashboard, which was what I was doing. So if we go back to Glances, and I'm going to refresh this because I lost all my stuff on the side here for some reason. If you want this default dashboard to work out of the box, you have to go either grab that PR from my repo, which you'll see if you go to the Edge repo for glances. Actually, we can just go back there. If we go down here to glances, you will see, oh, well, okay. It looks like some other people have forked it. I don't know. That's news. That's cool though. That just like happened today. Here's my fork. You could always go install it if you really wanted to. But long story short, let me just show you what it added. Let me pull up my production home assistant here, or somewhat production home assistant. Basically, if we go back to stats at a glance and let's see here. By default, if you want to use this dashboard, ultimately what happened was, let me just pull this up real quick so that I don't see dashboard. I'm going to just show you the difference in the config here. And I've got a password in there. Yeah, I'm not going to show you guys that. I didn't put it in my secrets file yet, but ultimately, let me find a better way to pull this up and show you. It's probably right here. I'd add a prefix in the influx config. I think it's right here. So basically all my PR did was add this option right here to the Home Assistant config. If you look at the Edge repo right now, you won't see that prefix option. And you can't, I thought, oh, maybe I can just like type it in. No, that's not going to happen. Squirrel. Yeah, I know. But I wanted to cover this after dark because the whole reason was to talk about glances and Grafana. So I'm still pretty much on track, kind of. So anyway, so you can't just add prefix equals here because it won't work. So long story short, it needs to be set to localhost for the dashboard to work out of the box. Because what was happening, and you can see that when I back in the Chronograph Explorer, like the default Edge add-on as it is today, it just started dumping, CPU and disk IO. Like, okay, I could, here's the write bytes, and there's no data in that now because now it shows up under localhost.diskio. And if I go to bytes written, you'll see here's all the data that's getting added and at what time it got added. So like right now, I think this is set to every like 5 seconds or something. Maybe it's getting it quicker than that. I don't know, 3 seconds. I don't know. It's probably a little too fast, but I was troubleshooting. And so anyway, so if you look at if we were to go look at load as an example, and I edit this, the default configuration here is localhost.load. And I think this might be set via some variable. I'm trying to remember where that was at, but anyway, long story short, if you want it to work out of the box, you got to have that option. Yeah, you can do that, Robert, or I'm sure we'll figure something out, right? Like it was just, I was trying to, just to me, like Grafana is the end result that I wanted to get to, right? Like I want to see nice, pretty dashboards and all that good stuff. So, it just didn't work. And I tried to just modify his dashboard, but the SQL select statements, and I'm not a SQL expert either, so they weren't really working. I couldn't find an easy way to do it. And it was honestly easier for me to just go fix it and have it put in the host name. So, and again, that's only if you want to use those graphs. If you want to go create your own graphs, you can totally do that with Grafana, you know, and you can use those as a reference. The other really cool thing, like I say really cool, I think this is pretty cool. You can create playlists for dashboards, and then, and I don't know if I already showed, maybe I already showed this on another live stream. And then you can do them in kiosk mode. So this would be like, to me, this is where I would want to take this and put it in an iframe in Lovelace so that I could have a dashboard that cycles. And by the way, you can edit this dashboard. You can tell it, or the playlist, sorry. You can give it a name and how often you want it to change the dashboard. And then you can pick the dashboards that you want it to cycle through. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, you know, then, you know, I could just kind of roll through all the stats, and 10 seconds is probably long enough for me to get a glimpse of something, see what's going on. I think you can pause it and restart it. So if we go back to, let's save that. If we go back to where it says start playlist, when you go to kiosk mode or TV mode, and there's a little difference between these two, and I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but you know, you can also tell it that you want to auto fit the panels. So you know, if your screen res changes, it'll just try to cram everything on there, which you may or may not like, but at least you'll still see all the data. So you may need to make some tweaks there. But you basically right click here and on the option next to it, and then copy the link address. And this would be what you would put in your iframe. And it'll just start rolling through. So like you know, you get this nice overview, and maybe not so nice. And then in 10 seconds, it will change to another dashboard that you have picked, right? So it's pretty slick. And you can still interact with it all, right? Oh, and it looks like it's missing some data. Yeah. I guess it can't plot it because it's trying to fit too many on there. You can still, you know, zoom in on this data and see what's going on, right? I'm also, if you're wondering how I'm getting a lot of this data, I'm also using Telegraf. So Telegraf is, I was actually gonna try to build an add-on for Telegraf, and Frank informed me that the alpha version of Influx, they're going to include Telegraf, and it's going to have a UI. But just know that that Telegraf, if you want to get like SNMP data, like for instance, like this is data coming out of my switch. If you want to get that data via SNMP, you're going to need Telegraf, right? Like Glances is awesome for just grabbing the local data of, you know, a Linux host or a Linux host and all the Docker images. Like to me, that was kind of the beauty. If I go back to the Grafana dashboard and we go back and kind of dig into the Glances, like to me, like the best thing about this is like you can see pretty quickly, like every container that's running on Hass.io, and these I thought these default charts were pretty good out of the box. Like it's showing you CPU and memory consumption for every container, so you can see like, oh, Influx is you know, consuming a lot of memory, not so much on the CPU side, but it's consuming a lot of memory. And here's, you know, I have Jupyter Labs installed and I'm not even doing anything with it, and it's still chewing up, you know, over 100 meg of RAM. And I don't know if that might be megabits. So that might be a lot less than that. I need to go, cause it's 30.5 million. So I would probably want to change these. But it gives you an idea at least of who's consuming what. So lots of good stuff, and like I say, a good way to get an idea of what's consuming what, right? From just a resource utilization standpoint. Like, I think this is, by the way, this is a challenge for, like, I don't even know what this container is. Like, This is probably some container I manually added then deleted, and there's no data for it now, and there's some remnant somewhere that I probably need to go clean up. I think there's a Docker command to do that. You know, and there, I mean, there's more, right? Like obviously this stuff, it's not able to get. I don't know why. Ambient temperature, I don't even know where he was trying to pull that from. And the CPU temperature, that's obviously something that Glances is probably not picking up for my system, and it's not getting sent to Influx. There's no data. Or it could be that it's localhost.sensors CPU value. We could try to troubleshoot this real quick. Localhost.sensors, yeah, that totally exists. Oh yeah, here we go. Core, hard drive, temperature, core, critical, careful. Maybe, I don't know what that value was before. Is CPU.value. And I don't see that in the list, so maybe there was some tag missing or something, but my guess is we could probably do this right here. Boom. Yeah. So some of this stuff can be fixed pretty easily. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you got something out of it, Si. Like I say, I'm still learning a lot about Grafana too, so I figure, like, you know, I figure stuff out with it all the time. It's pretty cool. So, not saying it should replace your whole dashboard. I think you know that. You're probably doing an iframe or something. Maybe you can show us what you got going on later. But yeah, good stuff. And you know, in this case, like it's showing all the containers. You can just go pick an individual container and say, oh, just show me InfluxDB, right? So when we go down here, like you don't have all those containers listed. You just have the one that you care about, right? You know, this is all done based on some variables and extracting out like all the containers. So if I just wanted to see what InfluxDB and maybe Nginx and Glances are consuming, I can just go pick those three and it will just show me those three containers, at least from a CPU memory utilization standpoint, right? You can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And you can see, like, I think my Glances config is set to, yeah, I have my interval set to 10 seconds. So you can see it's kind of hammering it a little bit. I mean, it's chewing up a little bit of CPU. You know, it's from a, you know, overall standpoint, I'm still at like 20% CPU, but that particular add-on or container is, you know, consuming 25% of whatever that container is configured to give it, so, or whatever Docker's given it. So good stuff there. Yeah, no. Oh yeah, why and how am I pulling? Oh, so thanks, Robert. I just catching up on chat here. So yeah, so there's so I've shown you guys like dashboards and a few other things. If you go back to Grafana, to the Grafana main website, so here's where the dashboards are. They also have plugins. Sorry, trust me, you're not going to offend me. It's all good. I get it. Just take another crack at it on the chat. So back to the plugins. So there are quite a few plugins that you can also add to Grafana. And I think, again, not an expert here, so if I get this wrong, my apologies. The difference between, you know, a dashboard and a plugin is a dashboard, you have to already have the data, right? So either Glances or Telegraf or something else, right? So, and by the way, Telegraf has Telegraf itself has like, I think over 160 plugins that it supports. But if you don't want to go through the trouble of installing Telegraf, Frank, and like, again, this just goes to show the level of effort that he puts into building an add-on. you have the ability to add, and I'm on glances. If we go, let me go back to Grafana. Oh, I don't have it installed here. Let me see if I can pull that up on my Home Assistant and show you guys with that. I don't sometimes I don't think I have anything here. Okay, cool. So let me just drag this over. Here's my production kind of Grafana instance. So this is the standard Grafana. As you can see, there's an update available. I'm not even running the latest, but Frank included this section here called plugins. So if you find a plugin that you like or you want to try on the Grafana website, then any of these plugins, like if you click on one, like, so there is like this world ping, like I think world ping is to check like your endpoint, like from the cloud or from the internet back to you. So I didn't really like, that was not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to make sure that my my internet connection was up. So I'm getting that from Telegraf with a ping. There's a ping plugin, but I think there are other like world ping and that's looping animated graphics. So I don't know if there's a plugin to do that or not. Maybe there is, but you had asked me about the USGS. It's down here at the bottom. So right here, this is water services. So in the case of the US, the USGS has a website where they like collect all of this data about lakes and rivers and streams, and you basically any data point that you can find on their website you can graph. So if you live near a river and you wanted to know like, hey, is it going to flood, then you could go pull that data and create a dashboard item. So I live pretty close to a lake, and so it's nice to know what the lake level's at. It's usually pretty constant because it's a hydroelectric, and it's a hydroelectric dam, so they try to keep it pretty constant level. But sometimes if we get a bunch of rain, the lake levels can go up, and that can cause some flooding downstream and some other things. So it was just, I just thought it's kind of cool. Anyway, so how, like for that plugin, I added it via the command line on this instance because this is a VM. So if we go back to the plugin, sorry, I just need to close that window. It will tell you how to install it. We're not, typically with Home Assistant, we're not going to be installing from the command line. If you're running Grafana, on your own, outside of Home Assistant, then this is the command you would run. But in the case of Home Assistant, you would just grab this name right here, and you would paste that into your plugins config. And what happens, I'm just going to let you know, like when you add those plugins, if you add a bunch of them, because Grafana is a container, and basically it has to go download those plugins at startup. And so I think anytime you restart it, because it's using, that the base container image or Docker file that's clean, that doesn't have anything added to it, it has to go download all those plugins. So just word to the wise, if you add 15 plugins there and you restart it, because you will have to restart it when you add all those plugins, it's going to have to go out and download all those plugins. And some of them, they're not massive, but they're not tiny either. So just I think it was mentioned somewhere in the docs. If we go and read the Grafana page, I think he talks about yeah, I don't know. Somewhere in here he talked about that, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe he changed it, but I'm pretty sure that the plugins have to be downloaded like at runtime. So just keep that in mind. But again, good stuff. Like, I think guys in general, like we always talk about the weather and what's going on. So around the lake, everybody talks. Oh, not everybody. A lot of people are just, it's like, oh, what's the lake level at? So, now I have a lake level on my dashboard. So my other idea, one of the things I'm planning on working on, if I can ever quit buying LEDs, is I want to get a Pi 0W and just a little display, like just a small 7-inch display, and set up, just a more of instead of a home assistant dashboard, which I may also do, obviously on a tablet, but and I already have some tablets for that, but that's a whole nother story. So anyway, I'd like to just use a Pi 0W and a little cheap display, and maybe leave some of this stuff up on a playlist that's cycling through either on my desk, or I'm thinking about integrating it into my new desk that I'm working on. So we'll see. Good stuff though. All right, so I did most of the talking. I feel like it wasn't as interactive as it probably could have or should have been. So you guys tell me at some point. My wife probably is already home. Maybe not yet. All right. Well, you guys tell me. What do you want to cover? Sorry, I was totally a squirrel moment. Did you see enough? I know a couple of you guys hopefully learned some new stuff. Like I said, I've been spending a little bit of time with it. Wanted to talk about glances and some of the other stuff I've been doing, some of the stuff that's already out there. If you just like, by the way, the weather thing, I didn't really talk about that. That one was just an iframe, but I think I was just really Googling, like doing some image searching on Grafana home dashboards. Like there's just a lot of good examples, and you may not be able to find the source code for these dashboards, but at least kind of gives you an idea of like what's possible with some gauges and spark lines and single stats and all that good stuff. Like, here's somebody else using that same dashboard, right? I don't know. This was actually posted on Pinterest, which I usually avoid because it's like clickbait. It's like clickbait city over at Pinterest. Yeah, here's somebody else. I don't even know. Home assistant data. Yeah, like I didn't even know this guy, Benny. Like, and this is old. This is from, wow, almost a year and a half old, and he's got some good stuff there too. Yeah, all kinds of good stuff. So, oh yeah, Robert. Sorry. I saw a PR on that earlier. I probably should have prefaced that. I haven't updated mine, but I saw that PR because somebody was also talking about that, and I should have said something about it sooner. I'm running Influx on a different VM, so my apologies, but let me see here. Where was that at? Influx DB. Yeah, I think if we go right here, hello, you will see there's an issue. Yeah, this was open 10 hours ago. So I don't think Frank's even had a chance to review this. It looks like it. Yeah, here was me asking Frank to add Telegraf. I don't know why he hasn't closed that yet. Wonder if I can close it. I don't think I can. Oh, I can't close the issue. see if this works. See if I can close. Yeah. All right, cool. That's closed. So maybe that helps Frank out by closing my own issue since we determined it wasn't worth the effort to add Telegraf. Cool. Yeah, so I don't know. It looks like this might take some effort to figure out what's going on. So anyway, cool. Anything else? J After Dark, Psy, Fire Spy, anybody? Cool. Well, awesome. At some point, I will set up some kind of giveaways. I know I talked about that last time too. I was actually on vacation for a little while, so, and then just kind of getting back in the groove of things at work and all that good stuff. Trying to find good content for you guys. So I don't want to get on here and just blab. On a side note, I was showing my wife Twitch. And, you know, it's obviously mostly around gamers and, like some of the people that are on there, it just floors me that, other people are willing to pay for subscriptions. So, yeah, well, I'm sorry. Hopefully you won't spend too much time on it, but, I thought it was pretty slick. I'm looking forward to seeing what you create. You know, one other thing too, I don't know how useful this is. Maybe you already knew about it, but one of the things that you can also do is, and I think I already did this on, I think it was on this one. Let me just save that. Sure, whatever. I don't even know what changes I made. Oh yeah, here we go. So you can also set it up to where, I don't know if you guys see that when I'm hovering over this section, if I click on it, it's going to take me to another dashboard. This dashboard, for some reason, is not working properly. But you can actually, and you can actually set it so that, if you want to me, the biggest use would be you want to drill in. So, if I go back to my home dashboard, and I have this NAS load here, right? And that's all fine and dandy, but I can kind of see what's going on, but it's hard to tell. So if you edit this under general, there's a drill down detail link. So you can add a link, and you can even do it to an absolute URL. Meaning I could say, hey, I want this to take me, if I see this, directly to, Synology, whatever it is, right? My 10, 200, 250, 5000, right? I can pass it parameters. I can give it a title like Synology admin, right? Let's see what happens. I didn't know you could. Now, I don't know what happens if you add more than one link. I didn't go that far. Well, let's just add it as a dashboard too, and let's see the dashboard. Now here, if I just start typing in the name of the dashboard, it's going to give me a picker, and I don't really want to pass anything else, so that looks good enough. Let's save it and see what happens. Added drill down links. Okay, so. Now, I don't know. That's weird. Maybe it's not big enough for the... Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Cool. So it added a little corner widget, I guess. And I can then have a choice to... From here, I can go to the Synology dashboard. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we want to save our changes. So it just took me to another dashboard. Or I wanted to see what happened if I click on the admin. Cool. The only thing I don't like about that is it didn't open in a new window. So I'm sure there's some way to tell it to do that, maybe. I don't know. I'd like it to open another window. I don't want to lose my spot there. So let's see. General. That was the external URL. Include time range, include variables. Open a new tab. Bingo. Look at there. Hey, how perfect is that? So now, when I go here and I want to go to the admin page, boom. How about that? Cool. All right. So, pretty good stream tonight. I'm happy. Hopefully you guys, like I said, you got some value out of it. So, good stuff. Grafana is pretty powerful, and it looks like they got a bunch of changes coming with the next release. Just like in all my research, like I kept seeing the banner ads for they've got Grafana Con coming up. I think in Vegas. So I think that's coming up sometime soon. I think February or something. So there'll probably be a lot of stuff that come out of that as well. But really good stuff. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to sign off and figure out what the plan is for dinner. I know it's late for a lot of you guys, so thanks for joining. Appreciate it. It was good stuff. I appreciate the support. And let me know what you want me to cover maybe on the next one. Maybe I'll have some more time to play with Grafana and we can dig in even a little bit more deeper. That was not the right way to say that, but a little bit deeper. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. I do. So, cool. You guys go check out all the great Grafana stuff. I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with too. Maybe you guys get some dashboards created. You can send me some screenshots if you're not comfortable, sharing your desktop or whatever, or you don't want to share screenshots too. That's fine. But I just think it's good for people to see like all the other great stuff. It just helps. You see one thing here and you're like, oh, that would be cool, and I want to add this or maybe tweak it a little bit. We didn't get a lot into panel configs and stuff. There's a ton of options within there, but all good stuff for sure. Oh, and looky here. I got size current Grafana. Let me see if I can figure out how to pull this up. Yeah, cool. So, wow, awesome. I think you've sent this to me before too. And that's pretty, yeah, that's pretty awesome. I know there's a delay here on the stream, so, but I think so. This looks kind of like, looks like the buttons are possibly HA dashboard or something else, and then maybe you're embedding an iframe in the middle. So yeah, that's awesome. So if that's your main like home screen that you leave up, might be good to have that use a playlist. You could cycle through more than just the temperature, and then I see that's a slippery slope, because then it's like that's my challenge. It's like I just turn into like sometimes called analysis paralysis, where I'm like, okay, I got 5 million things I want to do, and then I don't ever get started and finish one, or maybe that's squirrel syndrome, more commonly referred to as ADD. Yeah, awesome, good stuff. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time. I appreciate all the support. Like I say, hopefully it was valuable, and I'll work on finding out some more good details around Grafana. Maybe we'll do one more session on it, and then let it give it a rest for a little bit and focus on some other stuff. So I got some stuff I want to work on too, and I don't know. I may do some other different things. I do a little woodworking, so I'm not an expert at that either, but I'm actually in the process of building a new desk, so move down to the basement. Anyway, so maybe I'll try to get some footage of me and the walnut that I've been working with, which has been giving me some challenges. But anyway, may not be interested in that, but I'll share some pictures when the desk is done for sure. I'm hoping it'll turn out pretty good. So cool. All right, guys. Thanks again for all the support. I'm going to sign off, give you guys a little bit of your evening back. We will talk to you later.